Hello, I'm Bill Woodard, and we're at beautiful Granville, Tennessee, and this is the Chamber Corner. On today's show, we've got several things to talk to you about. We're going to talk with Miss Laura Piper about the fun day that's coming on. We got Mr. Stan Webster that's going to talk to us about the Smith County Fair. Mr. Randall Clemens is going to talk to us about the things that are going on in Granville and give you a look down the road at some of the things they're doing there in Granville. And then we've got some other things to talk about. One thing I want to mention is June the 24th, the Highway 25 Trash and Treasure Yard Sale is going to be going on at the Square in Carthage, so don't forget that from 8 to 4. And if you want to sign up and sell, you can do that, or you can just call us at the Chamber, 615-735-2093. And now we'd like to take you to one of our segments of Seasoned with Grace.
Hi, I'm Grace Harville, and welcome to another episode of Seasoned with Grace. This month, I'm making a cold vegetable salad. This recipe came from my Aunt Sherry's mother-in-law, Miss Wheels. So, Miss Wheels, thank you so much for this recipe. To start, we're going to have a can of small green peas, a can of shoe peg corn, cup of diced celery, a cup of green bell peppers, a can of French style green beans that have been chopped, and a cup of chopped onions. We're also going to add a small can of pimentos. We're gonna mix all of this together until all of it's fully combined. This is a great recipe. My family uses it for almost every occasion, birthdays, holidays, and it would be really nice for Christmas because of the green and red colors. There's the vegetables, and now we're going to come over here and make the delicious dressing that goes on top of the pea salad, or vegetable salad rather. We're going to start with a half a cup of oil, three-fourths of a cup of vinegar, a teaspoon each of pepper, salt, and mustard seed, a teaspoon of water, and a cup of sugar. And we're just going to mix all of this together until it's fully combined. And we're actually going to come over here to the stove, and we're going to heat it up so the sugar can melt. We're going to turn it on medium-high heat. And we're going to let it go on a hard boil on medium-high heat. And you want to make sure to keep stirring it while it's on the stove because you don't want the sugar to burn. This is the dressing for the vegetable salad. I've let it cool completely, and now I'm going to go pour it over the vegetables. I'm just going to make sure to pour it all over the vegetables in the bowl. Now we're gonna stir it all together to make sure everything is combined. The dressing that I just poured over the vegetables kind of acts as a pickling agent for the salad, which is probably why that it will keep for up to 6 weeks in the refrigerator. You'll probably want to eat it in less than 6 weeks. It's so good. In fact, I think I'm going to try some right now. Excuse me, you're absolutely gonna love this salad. If you would like the recipe for my pea salad or any of the other recipes that I've done on Seasoned with Grace, you can email me at graceharville1738@gmail.com. I hope you have a great day, and I hope your day is seasoned with grace. We'll see you next time.
All right, we're here at Sutton's store. Sierra Sabbs come by to be with us. Sierra's going to tell us, well, first off, tell them a little bit about Emmanuel House.
My name is Sierra, and I'm the executive director of Emmanuel House. We are a transitional living facility and homeless shelter for women and children. We accept women and daughters of any age, boys up until age 13. We offer recovery support, educational opportunities, job and life skills training, as well as mental health and case management.
Okay, and how long have you been at the place you are now?
2 years now. Well, Emmanuel House has been serving Smith County for 10 years now. We are currently located in the town of Carthage, and we have been there for 2 years.
Are your services limited to just Smith County, or do you?
Oh, absolutely not. No, we have residents from all over. A lot of our referrals come from surrounding counties, actually. Inpatient rehab, the local drug court program is a great source of referrals to us. A lot of our women come through and are battling addiction, so we work with getting them the recovery support that they need.
Okay, well now if somebody's in this viewing area then and they know someone that needs some help like that, then where would they contact you?
They can actually call the house directly. That number is 615-588-1569, and get a hold of me that way in the office.
Okay, just ask for Sierra.
Just that, yeah.
Now, what we're here today about here at Granville, by the way, we're enjoying looking around Granville. There's
fantastic.
a lot of stuff going on, isn't
Is.
there? Yeah, this is a great place. But anyway, the reason we're here is because you got a function, an event going to happen July the 4th. You want to tell them about that?
Yeah, we've got our 6th annual Smith County Fireworks Festival happening, and we are so grateful that the county has welcomed us to be able to do that for the 6th year. We are going to be doing a family-style festival and picnic, followed by one of the biggest fireworks displays in the county. The festivities begin at 6. Fireworks begin at 9. Parking is $5. Bring your family out. Enjoy some food and some family-style games and fireworks. We'll also have some entertainment. The Collins Family Revival will be entertaining us for the evening, and it's going to be good.
Okay, is there a charge for this?
Just $5 for parking. If you want to park elsewhere and walk, you're welcome to do that. Of course, we are a nonprofit, and we operate only off of donations and grants, so any form of donation is encouraged. We will also have a raffle that evening, and raffle tickets are $1, and we'll have multiple items to raffle, as well as tickets to some of the biggest attractions in the state. So.
Okay, and I've seen the fireworks several years in the past, and you basically are the official fireworks show for the county, I believe.
We are, and it's been so much fun, and again, we are so grateful that the county allows us to do this every year. And we have a wonderful community that comes together, and like I said, it's just like a big family picnic, family-style fun, and everyone is welcome.
Okay, and if you don't know where that is, you just get off exit 258. You turn, well, it depends on which direction you're going.
Yes.
You turn right or left, depending on, but you go north,
Carthage.
and you go toward downtown Carthage. And when you see the soccer ball on the right-hand side, turn in that driveway. That's the Crump Parish Park facility, and that's where the party's going to be back there.
That's correct, at the Smith County Ag Center, and that is Tuesday, July 4th, starting at 6 p.m.
Okay, Sierra, thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me, Bill.
All right. We're in the dining room at the Sutton General Store. If you've never ate a meal here, you don't know what you've missed. But anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. We've got Miss Laura Piper with Wilson Bank and Trust. And Laura, thanks for coming by.
Thank you for inviting me.
All right, and you better hold that little higher there so they can hear you. Now, you've got something that you're wanting to talk about here that's going on. Okay, why don't you just take and go with it?
Okay, we have every year we plan or schedule a family fun day for the community, and this year we're doing something different. We're actually going to have a movie night, and you can see from our little poster, it is The Secret Life of Pets. It's going to be a fun-filled night, and it's on June the 15th starting at 6 p.m. We'll have other entertaining things such as inflatables, concession stands, numerous things.
Okay, now is this going to be right there at the bank in Carthage?
It is. We invite you to bring a blanket, even a chair to watch. We'll have it sitting on the bank in the back, a large screen, and that way we'll show the movie. We'll have popcorn. There'll be a concession stand. There'll be a barbecue stand there.
Oh my goodness.
The candy bar in town. They'll have a variety of sweets. And so it's going to be fun. It's
going to be a big time then. Okay, well now you're going to set up behind the bank. So will you have signs out directing people, like they can come in from several directions at that point?
Yes.
Because that's one of the intersections for the whole town there.
That's right. You can go up kind of toward the hospital and park in that direction, and there'll be parking available.
Okay, and I know you've got a parking lot directly across the street from the bank, so there'll be parking there. Okay, you said you're going to have vendors and food and things of that nature, and games.
Right, we'll have games, inflatables, a balloon artist, the barbecue stand, the candy bar. We'll have, I think it's Little Critters that provides the inflatables, which the children always love.
Okay, and do you have any discounts on loans?
Oh, always. I've seen it.
Okay, so if you need something in the banking business, or if you just want to have some fun, it's June 15th at 6 p.m. at the Wilson Bank and Trust in Carthage, Tennessee. So remember to go by there June the 15th.
Yes.
Laura, thank you for coming by.
Oh, thank you.
And tell Andy West that we missed him.
I will.
All right.
I'll be glad to.
Okay, we're standing on the street here in Granville, Tennessee. I've run into Mr. Stan Webster, and he's going to be telling us something about the Smith County Fair here in just a second. But I want to point out, we're standing in front of a 1915 Ford. I don't know that that'd be a T model.
It would be.
Is it a T model? Okay, right. A 1915 Ford T model, and we've been honored by being allowed to photograph this. Mr. Bruce Carter, he is allowing us to do this. Thank you, Bruce. We appreciate that. Anyway, Stan, I understand we got a fair coming on.
That's right, Bill. We got the 10th Fair on the River. It'll be July the 31st through August the 5th. And I think you being a member of the Rotary Club, you are aware that we're going to have a new stage.
That's right.
Got a new stage in Pioneer Village, and we're breaking that stage in right. On Monday night, we've got the Wilburns. Tuesday night, we got Travis Alltop. Wednesday night, we got the Carthage Methodist, all their music, from the youth all the way out, the handbells, you name it. The Methodist Church will be there. And then Thursday night, we've got Lynn Sharonberger and the kids choir. We got Ms. Winfrey and Senior Moment. I've drawn a blank on the other. We got 3 acts on Thursday night.
Uh-huh.
Friday night, we got Bluegrass Solutions out of Cookville. And Saturday night, we've got a surprise act.
Okay.
So we're going to break that stage in right.
That sounds like a good one. I know they're working on it as we speak, so it's going to be ready.
Right. And the engineering on it is second to none.
Yeah, Mr. Young's making sure of that.
Something we are adding. You know, we've used Wilson Bank's wagon. They've been nice enough to let us use their wagon, their portable stage. So we're going to set it up in front of the main building there where we used to have the stage, and we're going to turn that into a kid stage for 2 or 3 nights. We've not advertised this in the program because, in all fairness, we weren't real sure if the new stage was going to be complete, so we didn't want to overbook, if you know what I'm trying to say.
Right.
But we're going to have kids acts there. We're going to have a magician, a ventriloquist, organ grinder, things for little kids. We may do that 2 or 3 nights and just kind of see how it works. Of course, the Rotary stage will be over in the Pioneer Village. Now, if anybody out there is a crafts person, we are in need of additional crafts people. If you're a quilter, or if you're a whatever your craft might be, a blacksmith, you name it, if you would just give me a call. My cell is 615-683-7869, and I'd love to talk to you and tell you you don't have to come the entire week. If I could just get you if we could just get you to come for a night or two or something like that. And it is in the shade.
And it's in the shade in the Pioneer Village. That's a new section, which is really nice over there.
Right. So we need all the craftsmen that we can find. And speaking of antique cars and Bruce's car here, our antique car show this year, we're going to have it on Saturday the 29th. Now, that is the Saturday before the carnival gets there on Monday, before we actually have our opening ceremony. And that Saturday, we're going to have the antique car show. They'll have the mule show that day, as they always have. And we're adding a 4-H archery competition this year, just for 4-Hers. And it's going to be on that Saturday. So we thought that'd be a good time when there wasn't a lot of people and a chance of them getting shot.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
But we have a few other new events, but I'm sure there'll be somebody in the next session we'll talk to you about that. But if anybody has any questions, feel free to call me. Our program will be out in 2 weeks, and the Courier is at print as we speak. And the cover is absolutely unbelievable. The Courier just outdone themselves this year with the program.
They always do a good job with that, too.
Sure do.
Well, now, I know you have the horseshoe pitching contest. And
right.
You're going to have all the stuff that you normally have.
Everything that we've been having. We're going to have the float in. Now, they have changed the kayak race, or the float in as we call it. It's going to be just a little bit different this year. It's not going to be as long. We had some people that were having problems. They said it was just too long. So they're actually going to put in at Stonewall rather than at Betty's Bend this year for that. So make it a little shorter, and I think maybe be more people that will enter it.
Yeah, well, we're hoping so. I know I was in the last one, and that 10 miles, that last mile is kind of rough.
There you go.
So you get in from Gordonsville there at Stonewall, and I think that'll make it a lot easier.
Right, and we'll offer a shuttle as we always have. Back, if they just the instructions will be in the program, and the Boy Scouts are going to have their float in again this year, as they always do. So
well, and this is the only fair on the river. That's one big selling point for this, and we've got a lot of things like this float in that are kind of connected to that.
And I'll tell you something else we do that we're the only fair to our knowledge in the state that does, without somebody's picked up on us, is the Saturday night coon hunt that Casey Bain puts on.
Yeah.
And it is a huge success. I mean, they are coon hunters that look forward to that from one year to the next, and being able to come out, and that kind of closes the fair down. Is the annual coon hunt. So at convention a few years ago, I know they were they looking, and we had the stuffed coon there, and what's that? And well, that's an event at our fair. You know, we have a coon hunt. So and there was a lady there from Missouri, and it took her away. She said she never had heard of something like that.
And if you're wondering, we've got plenty of wild coons out here to hunt. There's a lot of them in the woods.
That's right. Really, you know, a fair is to showcase your county. Is to showcase the agricultural. Is to showcase the river, what we have to offer. Just kind of like here in Granville. We're a step back in time here in Granville. The fair is a step back in time. We do have a new carnival this year, and you can read about that in the program when it comes out. But Bill, I appreciate you having me here.
Oh, glad to have you come. And if you're a kayaker or a raccoon hunter, you need to call us, don't you?
That's right. Or a crafts person.
Anything going on at the fair that you want to get involved in, Mr. Stan here, he can fix you up. Or you call the Chamber of Commerce. I'm going to give my number one time, 615-735-2093, and we'll get you to the right person. Or you can call Stan direct at 615-683-7869. And Bill will have his chamber booth right there at the entrance, with it being manned to answer questions when you get there. Yeah.
Just we'll have the shuttles again, so you won't have to walk very far.
And we always have a good fair, so you guys come out and visit with us. Okay, we're still here at Granville, and we ran into Mr. Randall Clemens. Randall, appreciate you letting us come over and taping our segment here.
We're always honored to have you, Bill.
Well, thank you, and I know there's a lot of things going on. I think the best thing for me to do is just say, Randall, what's happening in Granville?
Well, our next big thing is our barn sale that will be June the 9th and the 10th. It is in our Pioneer Village, which makes it very unique. This will be our 3rd year to do it, and we have vendors from all over Middle Tennessee that will be here on Friday. We'll be opening on Friday the 9th, going to 7 that night, and then on Saturday from 9 to 5. It's a great shopping experience. There'll be music, there'll be craftsmen, there'll be great food, and every type of merchandise that you can think of. And then Saturday night bluegrass. Year-round, every Saturday night. We're starting our 9th year with it. Our show is now broadcast in every state in the United States and every country in the world. We're honored now to have Timberloft Restaurant out of Gordonsville is the one that caters our dinner each Saturday night. And so we have dinner at 5 and at 6:30 by reservation at 931-653-4151. So if you've never been to our bluegrass, we invite everybody to come out. Great time in the summer, great bands, and just a great experience.
Well, and here's another thing. Always something going on at Granville now. When are you open? Like right now, we're in the end of May, beginning of June. So if somebody wants to come visit Granville, what days do they come?
We're open Wednesday through Saturday, year-round. Wednesday through Friday from 12 to 3. The Sutton store opens at 10, serving lunch every day. On Saturdays, we're open till 5 o'clock with the store opening at 10, everything else at 5. So you can come early on Saturday, tour the town, and then do the Saturday night bluegrass. But we are right now doing the 1940s theme for the 2017. So we have an exhibit in the Granville Museum called Memories of the 1940s. We also have a traveling exhibit from the Tennessee State Museum called Slave and Slaveholders of Western Plantation. At the Sutton Homestead, which is Mr. Sutton's 1880 home, in addition to it, you taking a tour of the home. Right now we have a special exhibit there called They Came as Strangers and Left as Friends, based on the World War II maneuvers. So it's a wonderful exhibit to get a tour of. We also have 1940s automobiles at our Antique Car Museum. And we also have a special display right now called a diorama exhibit that will be here through the end of June, which is basically a house, farm scene, a town, a junkyard, races. It's everything made to scale, and there's like 10 different scenes in it, and it's something wonderful. So we encourage people not to miss it as well. Always a good time to shop in Granville. We have 3 shops: the Sutton Store, Granville Gifts, Granville Antiques. We also have our Whipple Stop Saloon that is open each day, not serving drinks, but it is a museum of whiskey making, and then it also is an ice cream parlor museum as well. So a lot to do in Granville.
Yeah, and I know this is past, but you had a wine festival here. You had moonshine, cornbread and moonshine.
And we just finished with our Heritage Day, which was our 19th year to do it. We also will be having a July 4th celebration here on Saturday, July the 1st, with a professional fireworks show at around 9 o'clock that night. That's also, we'll be doing the Bluegrass Dinner Show, so it's a good night to come do the Bluegrass, and it'll be over in time for you to go and do the professional fireworks.
Okay, and something that you need to be prepared for, folks out there, you need to be thinking about, August the 21st is the solar eclipse, and I know we're going to have a lot of things going on in Smith County, and you're going to have a lot of things going on here.
We will be open that day, the entire town. We're going to have a special viewing area. You'll be able to go out by water and view. We'll be serving a special meal here at the Sutton store, and us, like the rest of Smith County, we're at one of the prime spots for the eclipse. So we have some speakers coming in that are going to be talking about the eclipse as well. So going to be a good day to come to Granville as well.
Yep, August the 21st, and now the eclipse is at 1:28 p.m. and it's the totality is like 2 minutes and 40 seconds. And if you're within about a 20-mile sight of that center line, which the center line's right over, almost over exit exit 258 in Gordonsville, you're going to get a good viewing of the eclipse. And so this will be a good place to be. So if you want to find a place to be, or you've got friends that are coming in from out of state, you can send them to Granville or Defeated Creek Marina or Granville Marina, or we've got a place at the Crump Parish Park in the Ag Center area, Ivy Agee Park in Gordonsville, in the city of Carthage. They're going to do something at the park there. So there's a lot of venues that are going to be open for that. So spread the word about August the 21st. And then after that, here in Granville,
Before we leave that, Bill,
go ahead.
We have some people that is coming from France to Granville for the eclipse. We have another group that's coming from Germany.
Wow.
That have booked rooms here. So.
That's pretty amazing.
Pretty amazing.
And this has gotten attention. I know I saw a newscast in Gallatin. There's over 300 people from Japan coming to Gallatin to see it. So folks, I suggest that at 10 o'clock that morning, you probably need to be where you want to be until about 4 o'clock that afternoon. So it's going to be a big deal. Now, as we move on through August and get into September, you've got several other events that come on in September.
October is our biggest month of the year. We will have a month-long Scarecrow Festival that will start October the 1st, going through the 31st. We will have over 100 real-life looking people that will be decorating our streets, our historic buildings, and then we will have special things for children, and then we'll have over 250 traditional scarecrows. We have the largest Scarecrow Festival in the state of Tennessee now. And then on October the 7th will be our Granville Fall Celebration, Jazz on the Cumberland, all types of music, old-time craftsmen. So it's a great day to be in Granville as well on October the 7th, and a quilt festival as well.
Right, and then of course it's a little far away, but Christmas, there's a lot going on.
Christmas starts the second week of November going through the end of December. So, and our theme this year will be I'm Coming Home for a 1940s Christmas, based on World War II and the 1940s theme that we have. We'll be doing the Mayberry Plays the first 2 weeks of December. We're already taking reservations for those. We've booked over 300 reservations already. So encourage you to make your reservations for it. It is an all-new play for Christmas, and so if you've been here before, don't think, well, I've already done it, because it's going to be totally different. And that's one thing I would say about Granville. If you've been, don't think I've already done it, because we change our exhibits every quarter. So it's always different. Our automobiles are always different. The museum and the Sutton Homestead are always different.
And I come back every year, and there's always something going on. In fact, you were sitting on the porch, and you were eating something that looked awfully good. What was that?
That is a new dessert we have called an orange float, and it is wonderful. Come to the Sutton's General Store, and they'll fix you one.
Yeah, last time
this is my third one I've had in the last week, so I can tell you how good it is.
The last time we came here, I got some of the ice cream. It is truly wonderful. Well, Randall, thank you very much.
Well,
appreciate you talking with us. And folks, if you get a chance, come and see the folks at Granville, and come to the Sutton store and get you an ice cream or orange float. You need one of those. Well, that was a good conversation with Mr. Randall Clemens. We really appreciate him hosting us here at Granville. You know, every year we have another distinguished gentleman that speaks to our leadership group, and he talks about the history of Smith County and some of the things that have went on in time past. And I thought you might enjoy excerpts out of that. And so we're going to show you a little bit of a talk that Mr. Walter Glenn Birdwell gave to our leadership group here just this past week. So I'm going to take it away to Mr. Walter Glenn Birdwell.
Smith County was founded in 1799, and it was created by the General Assembly and named in honor of General Daniel Smith, who served in the Revolutionary War. And that's how Smith County got its name. Smith County was originally part of Sumner County. Smith County was carved out of Sumner to make the county we have. And as a matter of fact, it was even larger then, because DeKalb County was carved out of the Smith County at that time. It's been like the same county in the same dimensions since 1799. And down at Dixon Springs, Dixonia, the log house on Highway 25, is said to be the oldest house still standing in the state. During the reign I can't say, of King Louis XVII, he stayed there while traveling through the countryside. And so it has been a major part of the history of our county and the surrounding industry, or surrounding counties and towns. Early business and industry was tied to the land and the topography, the river valleys and the hills. We have that, and that's just what we've worked around for all these years. And one of the first industries were sawmills and logging. And we had the river to transport with in those days. With logs and before the days of trucks, they had to be transported some way or another. And one of the best ways to transport the logs was to float them down the river. And what they did, they made rafts out of logs. Now, it occurred to me that somebody might not have ever seen a log raft. Well, I have. A log raft, the farmers would have a level place next to the river, and they would bring their logs at the same length and lay them side by side, and then another row end to end on those, and they'd attach them together with a little short piece of chain with a spike in it. They'd drive the spike in this tree and the other end of the chain in the log here, and this held the whole thing together. So when they could only use this method of transportation when the river is flooding. It was on the river banks, the river would flood, the logs would float, and they'd push them out in the current. And the upriver logs Carthage was the first place coming down the river that they could have the logs sawed. Later on, they went all the way to Nashville with the log rafts. And but I remember when I was young, over here at Everly, where Dolly and Jim have their construction company, there was a huge, the skeleton of a huge building there. And they were up in the attic, there were long bands of steel with teeth on it. And this was a band mill. And that band would go round and round, and they'd push the logs into these steel teeth, and it sawed the logs. Well, that worked really good, except if they didn't get all that spike out of the log that they had used to hold them together, it ruined the band. It became so expensive replacing the bands that the sawmill had to close. It was quite an enterprise, and one of the early ones that was going here in Smith County. There was also a company called Ayers and Lloyd. They made cross ties. I'm sure you all know that cross ties are the big wooden pieces that the railroads run on, and they're buried in the or gravel, and the rails are put on top. I didn't know, but a cross tie is 8 inches square by 9 feet long. And I remember, if you've ever tried to lift up one end of a cross tie, it's so heavy you can't lift it up. But I remember, as a youngster, a barge had been brought up the river, down just about under the old bridge, the Cordell Hull Bridge, and it was tied to the bank, and they had built, with lumber, they had built a chute, sides and a bottom, and it ran from up on top of the bank down into the barge that was on the river. And a truck had pulled up, and these big, strong guys would pick up a cross tie on their shoulder and walk it over to the chute, put it in the chute, and it would go right down that chute to a fellow waiting on the barge down in the river, and he'd pick them up and stack them in neat stacks. I don't know how in the world they were strong enough to do that, but they sure did. And it was something to see and something to remember all these years. There was also a company, the Nave Spiller sawmill, which made barrel staves. Of course, we still see barrels of various kinds. Bilberry Welch Spoke Mill made spokes for wheels. If you remember, the early wheels had wooden spokes, and this is that's what they did. That became Carthage Spoke Company in 1928. There's a display of that in the museum. Judge T.J. Fisher had a sawmill. Bowie Massey, in my time that I can remember, Bowie Massey had a sawmill at Pleasant Shade. As a matter of fact, the paneling in our home is some that I went back and cut some trees on my dad's farm, and we brought them out and took them to Bowie Massey's mill, and he sawed them up, and we had them milled from that. So we feel they were sycamore, which is different. And so Bowie was at Pleasant Shade. The more modern mills over at Mulherron Creek, where you see the logs now and the water's spraying out on them, that was developed by Indiana Hardwoods, which was owned by the Jasper Corporation of Jasper, Indiana. The Jasper Corporation bought Kimball Piano Company in Chicago, and they used the mill over here to furnish the wood to make Kimball pianos all the way up to Chicago. That has changed hands a few times. Somerset Hardwood Company out of Somerset, Kentucky was there for a while. And now Hugh Wayne Clark out of Lafayette has a yard over there collecting logs, and they ship them to his customers wherever they might be. And I don't really know why they spray the water on, but I think that's to make so they can use them for veneer. They would be veneer logs that would need to be kept wet. Another enterprise for trees are the cedar mills. We've had a number of cedar mills in the county, but the two that have lasted all these years are the Owens Cedar Mill down at Rome. J.C. Owens mill is at Rome, and Richard Smith has a cedar mill at Grant. It's kind of interesting. Hardwood is sold by the board foot, but cedar is sold by the ton. So I don't know why they came up with that difference, but that's the way it works. And a byproduct of the cedar mill is the sawdust that they bag and sell to people to line dog houses and for cats and what have you, because the aroma of cedar runs off the fleas. The big enterprise for this county, and we were a tobacco warehouse town. Tobacco was king for many, many years, and the whole economy was based on getting ready for tobacco to be sold in December and January of the year. There were 7 or 8 big warehouses in Carthage and South Carthage. There are 2 still left in South Carthage, one on Highway 70 and one on the Gordonsville Highway. And in the winter, the farmers would bring their tobacco after it's being, of course, grown and processed at their farm, and they would, that's when it would be sold in the warehouses, and that's when the money came in. It was the money crop, and it's what made things go. Now, in the 30s, there was the biggest warehouse was called Farmer's Warehouse. It was on Main Street, if you can remember it was where Walton Hotel is now, all the way up to the little gazebo where the church used to be. That warehouse was so big it covered that on Main Street and went in the back all the way to Spring Street. And I remember as a child, one morning my father came and got me and said, "The warehouse burned last night." That didn't mean much to me, but he brought me down, and I can still see today Main Street with all the hoses and what have you. The fire department had gotten on the roof of the adjoining buildings and put enough water on it to save the town. They thought the town was going to burn down from that huge fire, but it wasn't. It was saved, but there was a vacant space there that has been now filled in with various buildings, and that was quite a blow to the town at the time. There were other things. Carthage Tobacco Works was over in South Carthage, and they made snuff and chewing tobacco. There was a tobacco factory up at Elmwood, owned by Mr. Ford and two fellows named Condit. For crops, corn was pretty much king for crops, and the corn was raised in the river bottoms and the creek bottoms and up on the hillsides. Hard to imagine now that corn was raised on the steep hills we have, but it was. They had a plow that turned the soil, and at the end of the row, when they couldn't go, it was too steep to go around, they'd turn and go back the same way, but the blade flipped over, so it turned the soil the next down the, so every row turned it the same way. But it's kind of interesting that in the 1800s, Tennessee was the leading hog producing state in the country. It's hard to imagine that could be with so much of Tennessee is hilly and whatever, but that was, hogs were a major part. There was several flour and mills in the county. There was a mill at Monville called, and I don't know the name of the mill, but there's a dam across Peyton's Creek there, and that backed the water up, and they ran the water over a water wheel that they used to grind the corn and the flour for the corn for meal and the flour, wheat for flour. And I remember it well because in my growing up days, the water still ran across the dam. The dam was still there, and there was a big hole at the bottom of the dam where everybody went swimming, and that's where I learned to swim. So I can remember it real well as a child, going there and learning to swim. The river was with us. That was so important to us in many ways. They transported livestock and goods, and the river boats could go as far upstream as Burnside, Kentucky, on the Cumberland, and up to Peel, Chestnut, and White County on the Caney Fork. But they could only go when the river was flooding. The river's too shallow, but when the river would flood, the steamboats out of Nashville would make runs up the rivers, and there along the river bank were called landings. Some landings had warehouses where the farmers would store their whatever they were selling, and where the steamboats could deliver the finished goods that they were delivering. So they would come in a landing and unload what they have and load back the other and go on to the next. There were a number of landings. One in particular is down you know where the little race track used to be, or I guess the track's still there, on Highway 25. That was Taylor's Landing. And it had a warehouse, I'm told, before my time, but there were up and down the river, on up to Granville and all the way on up, further up there. On the Caney Fork, there was a landing at Hurricane. That's on Center Hill Lake now, and there's a boat dock at Hurricane Boat Dock. But in Hurricane Creek, there was a warehouse. A steamboat pulled in there to unload and load back, and before they could get out, the river went down, and they were stranded there until the next flood came. The boat couldn't do anything but sit there until the next time there was a flood. The other thing that came from the river were mussels and pearls. A mussel is a little thing that looks like an oyster, but it grows in the fresh water in the rivers. There's a piece of tough meat inside that mussel. The Indians lived off of them. I never knew of anybody else trying to eat one, but occasionally there would be a pearl. If a piece of sand got inside the shell, the mussel would grow layers of mussel fiber to cover up that grain of sand, and that would create a pearl that's used in necklaces. That was quite a business. Here in Carthage, there was a merchant in the building where Kim's Frame and Art is. And his name was Meyer, and he was the leading merchant of the town, and he lived in a house that has burned just right down here, about a half a block, up on the hill where there's some houses now. And he had one of his sons he sent to Harvard University up in New England to school. After going to Harvard, this Mr. Meyer established an office in New York City, and he became the pearl king of the entire country. He traded, of course, this wasn't the only river that had mussels, and so Mr. Meyer was a pearl trader, and there were others. There was a Mr. Condit at Elmwood, who didn't trade as much, I think, but he was known to be a pearl trader also, and he sold the pearls to the wholesale jewelry companies in New York, which strung them and made pearl necklaces out of them. And the other thing that, if you'll think about the end of Main Street, where you come down and you make a sharp turn left to come this way, that building where the church is was a button factory. They made pearl buttons. I remember as a child seeing a big pile of mussel shells with round holes in them. They had gone through the processing. They punched a round hole through the mussel and then took that little round thing and made a pearl milled it to make a button, a pearl button. And I think there are pearl buttons made some places today, but certainly not here. And but that was quite an industry, the whole thing dealing with pearls. Also, later on, there was a station down at Rome that received the mussels, and this is in more modern time, and got the meat out and sold those pearls to Japan, where they used that stock as the beginning of natured pearls they were making in Japan, because it had the properties that they needed for the center of the pearl, of the cultured pearls. One of the main things that was necessary was transportation. A gentleman named William Walton, who lived, well, the Walton Cemetery is right over here out from Walmart, and there's a camper trailer parked where his house was. Mr. Walton developed a road, a pioneer road called the Walton Road, and it ran from here to Kingston in East Tennessee. He developed the road. As a matter of fact, there on Highway 70, almost is where the Walton Road, between here and Cookville, almost where the Walton Road was. There's just inside Putnam County, there's a road that says Walton Circle. It obviously is how the old Walton Road went around, so they didn't have to cut through some limestone. But this was a major enterprise. Colonel Walton made a treaty with the Indians. He gave them part of the toll he collected if they'd let the settlers go through. So it worked. he was able to let people go through when they couldn't otherwise. During those days of commerce, there was a hotel, or hotels everywhere. We here, of course, have the Walton Hotel still here. Where the post office was the Chapman House Hotel. It was a big hotel. I can remember it. Of course, our bridge is Cordell Hull Bridge. I understand that Mr. and Ms. Cordell Hull reserved a suite of rooms in the Chapman House Hotel, because they would come home when he was in Congress. They'd come home for the summer and they'd stay at the Chapman House. Well known for great meals and what have you, but there were hotels everywhere. There was one at Hickman called the Huddleston House, and it was on the railroad. Back in those days, people traveled on the railroad, and the Huddleston House was there to accommodate people that were on the railroad. There's a hotel at Gordonsville where the Baptist Church is. There was a hotel right there. And several, even Pleasant Shade had a hotel. So there were a number of hotels throughout the county, and that's the merchants, the people selling to the merchants would stay at the hotels, and there were stores and merchants at nearly every crossroads. Just every one of them that we know of, Maggart and Monaville and what have you, had stores. And that was a major commerce that the people would travel visiting the stores, and people bought their goods from the stores back at home instead of Walmart. And in 1929, there were 6 banks in the county. down from 8 before. And Citizens Bank and Trust Company opened October the 26th, 1929. That was 3 days before the big stock market crash on Wall Street. And those, believe it or not, I was here. I was a little baby. And those were slim times through the Depression of the 30s. It was, it ended up that there were 2 banks in the county, Citizens Bank and Smith County Bank. And the Trust Company from the Citizens Bank name was dropped in 1956. I had come back here in 1954, so soon after I came back. And we'll be celebrating our 88th birthday in October. So we're just glad to have it that way. We're the only bank that's headquartered here in Smith County, and we're pleased and proud to have that. Business was originally centered around the Tennessee Central Railroad. Our railroad has a different name now. I don't remember what it is, but it was Tennessee Central forever. And it was headquartered in Nashville and ran all the way to Crossville. And there was a way to get from there to Harriman, Tennessee, on the railroad. The Tennessee Central ran itself to Crossville. Then the railroad and the river gave way to the highways, and highway transportation became the main thoroughfare. The first road, of course, was the Walton Road. Next came Highway 141 that runs through Gordonsville. It ran all the way further east and all the way into Nashville at that time. Next came Highway 70, and it said part of that was where the Walton Road used to be through here. But Highway 70 was the major thoroughfare for many, many years. And then next and now is I-40. I-40 crosses the Caney Fork River 5 times in 3 miles. It was costing $1 million a mile to build. And I thought, my gosh, how can they ever justify spending $1 million a mile to build a highway? That shows how dumb I am. It is our lifeblood, of course. Having an interstate right through our county is so important to us. And it has opened up this area of the whole Tennessee, not just this county. But during the times, there have been various small industries that have sprung up in the community. An example with the Happy Days Soap Company. The Happy Days Soap Company was at Hickman. And there was an article in the Carthage Courier in 1926 that said that that 10 ounces of soap was a dime and 32 ounces was a quarter. And they ran an ad in the paper advertising something that sold for a dime and a quarter. Also, there was a tomato factory that was established at Hickman, too. And it said that about the time they were getting in production, the people that moved in to start the factory and got local people to support it couldn't be found anymore. They'd skipped the country and left the local folks high and dry. There was a paper factory on Mulherron Creek between here and Gordonsville. There was a company, Stone Brothers Furs. There's a picture of that in the museum. That was made in 1909. The first modern broad-based industry that came to town was located in the plant and the building where Randy Wakefield had baseball batting, over now next to the the rescue squad building. That building was a cheese plant operated by the Lakeshire Marty Company, which is a division of Borden Foods. And this was one of the most broad-based industries that we've had. The cows were out on the farms and were milked, and there were truckers that picked the truck up, or the milk up, and brought it to the plant. There were plant workers who processed it, and it involved a lot of people, and even Albert Gore got the idea that if you're going to have cows to make milk, they're going to have to eat. And so he established Cumberland Feed Mills, along with his friend Grady Nixon, over in South Carthage. And they distributed feed to all over the Cumberland area. It was quite an enterprise. And they had traveling salesmen who sold the feed in other areas. As a matter of fact, a sideline of the cheese plant was Western Condensing Company. Harry Davis, Lee Davis out of Smith County Motor Company's father, that family moved to Carthage so Harry could manage the Western Condensing Company, which used a waste product of the cheese production to condense further into powders. And so there's almost every farm was affected in one way or another by the cheese plant. Next came the garment plants. Where the museum is, the museum business was Stevens Manufacturing, W.E. Stevens Manufacturing Company, which manufactured pants. They made pants. Don't remember, they made men's pants, don't remember about women's, but they were a major contributor. And next came Carthage Shirt Corporation. Carthage Shirt was in the building that's just down past the church on 3rd Avenue, big building, the McCalls have it now. They worked 700 people at one time. They were mostly women, but there were 700 people employed there, and it was a great thing for our county. Now, the shirt factory kind of was the downfall of the cheese plant. Turns out the men didn't want to fool with the cows, the women wanted to fool see the men keeping the milk clean and getting the cow's milk. But the women went to work at the cheese plant, and that was such a wonderful addition to our economy. The Industrial Board was formed in 1961. I was chairman of the Industrial Board for many years. During my time I was there, 13 buildings were built and occupied by industry. And we used every means you can think to get people to go, industry to come in. Suitable sites were the main problem. Here we have the river valleys look great, but they flood. We've got hills, and you can't very well build much of a building on the side of a hill. Top of the hills, couldn't get the utilities. So we had a real problem with sites, but there was an organization called the Smith County Boosters that was formed by the merchants in the county, and they gave a ticket for every dollar purchased at their store, and they had bought the tickets to give from Smith County Boosters, and there was a monthly drawing for cash of the tickets that were in the big barrel that we had, and you had to be present to win. And on drawing day once a month, the town was full of people, and it was big time. But the money raised by the boosters was used to buy the property out next to down from Tractor Supply, where Save a Lot Grocery is, and across the street there. And Lux Clock put in a plant there. The Douglas Aircraft built a building, and that building is still there and is being used now. Not as many people as they used, but Douglas Aircraft out of California. We're building wing sections in that building and shipping them back to California to be put into the planes. The Lux Clock site is such a good-looking piece of property, but it flooded about this deep last time there was a flood, and also there is some contamination, and they now have wells and are testing for the contamination, which is way underground, but it's there, and until that's cleared up, I understand it can't be reused anymore. The land could be built up, and it'd be a great industrial site. And we just have a problem with sites. The Welch Company came into Gordonsville about the time that Douglas was coming in, and a company called Marcellus Manufacturing. But the Welch Company had to be on the railroad, and so we finally worked out the place that they are, where their building is, and they haven't been, even though they have closed the company, they haven't been able to sell the building, and it's sitting there ready for somebody. I hope we can get somebody into it. During the times that we were doing this recruiting, we came in second so many times. Well, to be second, just well to be 10th, you know. But sometimes you're lucky. There's a plant that went to Dixon that we were working on. They had environmental problems in more recent times, and I'm glad we don't have that problem. But fortunately, we have a good base of industry, and our big break came when the William L. Bonnell Company came in and bought the land over on the Caney Fork River between the railroad and the river. They've had a bunch of expansions. They're a good, stable industry, and it's interesting. In working with them, they were so secretive. They didn't want anybody to know who they were. We had no idea who we were dealing with. They sent 3 people in here, Mr. B, Mr. Lloyd, and Mr. Mal. And later on, after they decided they wanted to come to Smith County. They decided we were the right location, but we had to find a suitable site for them. And anyway, it turned out that this was an engineer named Bernard Beeson, who just about took residence here. Lloyd Reynolds from their Newnan, Georgia plant, and Mal Harvey, who was president of Bonnell at the time. And their opening opened up other things for us. And they've been a good, steady employer for all these years. Sites opened up with the development of the Young property. And that's where the industrial park is that has several buildings now. There was a fellow named Larry Collins from Portland who we found is a builder of speculative industrial buildings. He came in, he wanted to build a shopping center where Tractor Supply is. And we went over to see him and said, you build industrial buildings, why don't we help you build spec buildings instead of the shopping center? And he agreed to, and before it was over, he's built 7 of the buildings that are over in the industrial park. And that's, to have a building to sell rather than raw land is a boost up in industrial development. And so it has, Dana was the first building that he built, and it was the first industry in the park. And now there are 11 overall buildings in the park and nearby. And C.E. the local, 2 of them are owned locally by C.E. Hackett. One of the largest sources of payroll and also land wealth is when New Jersey Zinc Company came into Smith County. They had, in the testing, they had found zinc in their core drilling. They knew that the formations here were similar to the ones in East Tennessee near Morristown. And so then they came in and began to, they first had their first core drillings over in the Murfreesboro area, found some zinc, but nothing like they found here. When they came here, they hit some core holes that were just, had, it said 60 feet of zinc in one of their core holes. And so with that, they opened the mine about 30 years ago. They used the number 1,700 feet underground as the location of the zinc. And I've been underground, and they've got tunnels going everywhere and running trucks this way and that. You'd think you're in a highway zone, but it's very interesting how they have mined the zinc. And now this mine's gone through several ownership changes, and now it's operated by a Belgian company named Nystar, who also has a smelter over at Clarksville. And so that makes this a good place to have their ore in order to ship to Clarksville, which is on the Cumberland River, and they can bring ore overseas up the river and from here. They even provided to go down the river at one time, but that didn't work out. But they are a major producer here in the county, and in addition to zinc, they produce a lot of limestone, as you can see from that huge pile of limestone over there. And that can be used for roads and agriculture purposes, a lot of uses for it. One local industry using agricultural land is a company called Smith County Pelletizing. Smith County Pelletizing has a plant over there near the mine, and they take a little piece of lime and encase it in a piece of clay, a little piece of mud, and let it dry, and then bag it, and that makes liming your yard easier because you've got a little bigger piece to strow when you're liming your yard. And they're still operating over there. Now, one thing about it, they found that there's other lime that has a better property. So now instead of getting their lime next door, they're buying their rock up at Sparta. And so anyway, these companies, they do whatever they have to do to make it work. good industrial sites have always been our problem. You know, you've got to have water and sewer and gas and electric, and the water has to be a large enough line to support a sprinkler system. It's usually thought it ought to be a 10-inch line. They can get by sometimes with an 8 or 2 6s come in and make that work. And but the site's got to be generally level or can be leveled. And but recent expansion of excavating, they can take a hillside that we used to didn't think could be used, and now they can make a pad for an industrial site that I guess we used to didn't think you could do, but now that's usable. And we'll continue to grow as we develop more sites and find more sites that are suitable and can be purchased at reasonable figures. And I believe that in the future, particularly as things fill up coming out of Nashville, it means that there'll be more opportunities here for to have plants locally. But you know, even if we don't, we're situated so that the building coming this way out of Nashville and this way out of Cookeville means that we've got manufacturing opportunities within fairly easy driving distance and time. And I think our economy looks good to me for the future.
We hope you enjoyed our show today. We try to put them together so that you'll enjoy them and that they'll give you some information that you wouldn't get otherwise. We've got a few things to go over here before we leave you. June 23rd and 24th, the Trash and Treasures Yard Sale. And that's going to set up on June the 24th on Main Street. And that's the Highway 25 Yard Sale, which runs all the way from Robertson County to Smith County on the entirety of the Highway 25. And so you might find a bargain on that if you'll just start on one end and come all the way to the other. And it's going from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. on the 24th on Saturday. Now in Robertson County, up in Cross Plains, they've got it going on the 23rd and 24th, and they have a festival, have music and entertainment, so you might want to run up there and see what's going on as well. July the 2nd, the 13th annual Lancaster Independence Day Parade and Fireworks Celebration. And let me tell you, folks, you will really enjoy that. Little town of Lancaster comes alive. Last year when we were there, the Army Band played, and they had a big crowd. They had homemade ice cream, and the parade was really great. But there was over 1,000 people plus that came to that event. They're expecting more this year. There is a choir group coming all the way from Minnesota just to sing, and what it is, it's a celebration of the Constitution and the freedoms that we have here in the United States. So if you want to enjoy yourself, have a good time, and learn what it's about to be free in America, come to Lancaster on July the 2nd for the Lancaster Independence Day Parade, and it starts at about 5 o'clock. July the 2nd is a Sunday, and so you come and be with us on that. July the 3rd, the Red Cross is having a blood drive at the Chamber of Commerce, and then the July 31st through August 5th, the Smith County Fair that Stan talked about is going to be going on, and it'll be in full-blown presentation. So we hope you'll come down and be with us for the Smith County Fair. Let me get through my papers here. I've got the Highway 25 yard sale, which I already mentioned to you, and then Lancaster Independence Day Parade. We went through that. And by the way, if you it says 800 to 1,000 attendees from Middle Tennessee region. This year's live performances include Nashville Bluegrass musicians, Blue Hollow from Elizabeth, Tennessee's Watauga Valley Fife and Drum Corps will perform in period costumes. The Trousdale County High School Band of Hartsville, Tennessee, the nationally renowned Lincoln High School Tiger Marching Band all the way from Lake City, Minnesota, and Abington, Virginia's Overmountain Mountain Victory Trail Association will perform in historical costumes. So they're going to have a big day going on at the Lancaster Independence Day Parade. And then, of course, we mentioned movie night when Miss Laura talked to you about that, and that's taking place on June the 15th at 6 p.m. We hope you enjoyed our show, and now we're going to cut away and see you the next time on the Chamber Corner.